So I want to thank everybody for spending your lunch hour with us. Don't know if we're going to take quite an hour since it will be a one-way conversation here, but we'll give you a really good amount of detail of common functionality within SolidWorks 2015. It's going to be the types of things that in some situations, no matter what you use the software for, these features are definitely going to be beneficial for you. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets a good experience out of this. And again, we'll probably keep it to more around 45 minutes to an hour and get you back on your way with the rest of your day. But once again, I appreciate you spending your valuable time with us. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of use the PowerPoint for a couple of prompters here, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Today's session is really going to be more focused on the design functionality, not necessarily the details of the CAD, but how the CAD can help you, how SolidWorks can eliminate button picks and really streamline the things that we've done. Even early software functionality has been readdressed with some of these new features. So we're going to start out with basic user interface. Once again, it doesn't matter if you make parts or assemblies or 2D drawings, a lot of these functionalities are going to be quite beneficial to you. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the live portions of the demonstration. So on screen, we're looking at the SolidWorks assembly currently. And when a SolidWorks assembly is on screen or a part file, we've had this tool that we added a couple of releases ago called the View Selector. And you typically get there by holding your control key and hitting the space bar, and it brings up this cube that shows around your part or assembly. Now, two things that have changed in SolidWorks 2015 would be the fact that if you hover over any one of these panels, it's going to show you a preview of what that view is going to look like before you actually select it. Now, a difficulty we used to have with this tool previously is that it would also shift you into an isometric mode, and this back ISO that you can't get to, you never were able to get to. But now this is non-modal, so we can actually go ahead and rotate this tool while the view selector is active. If I want to get to this back angle here, we'll just go ahead and select it, and it will roll our assembly or part around to that position. There is a way to also couple this with your view orientation dialog box. That's the space bar that brought that up. If you click this button here, then the view selector will also show when you click your spacebar for any named views or standard views that you might have. There is also a button that can be added to the heads-up toolbar, so if you just want to click it there and then go ahead and deal with the view selector in that manner, that's fine. If you decide to click in the background off the view selector, it will simply return you to the view that you were at when you last used it. So over in the Feature Manager, we've got a couple of hidden components, and previously in assemblies the only way to know what these parts were was to physically show those. Well, now if you just simply click on those, what you're going to get is a nice transparent highlight of them. Now if I click off of it, of course the transparency goes away, and multi-pick is going to show multiple hidden parts with that transparency. In this case, I'm just going to show those components and bring them right back, but it's a real nifty way to not have to physically show a component that maybe you don't need, and you just want to figure out which it is in the tree to action on it properly. When dealing with parts, multi-body parts specifically, or assemblies, there could be a lot of extra scenery here. Here we've got a lot of bearings and other internal componentry on this file. And I want to isolate things. Now, isolating is a really quick way to work on just what you want to deal with here without hiding and showing or making configurations. And I've always been able to isolate by right-clicking on a part and simply going to isolate. But now you can actually isolate from a common mate. Now, because we're doing it from a single mate, there's multiple components associated with that. So with an isolate here, it's going to get rid of all the scenery and details inside and leave us with those two housings for this particular assembly. This also works if you're already in edit part mode within the assembly itself. Now, the Feature Manager, anybody that's used SolidWorks or really any other CAD system that's parametric in nature for more than a short time, you've already realized that there are parent-child relationships set up within the product. Now, these parent-child relationships are something that you can visualize by simply going to any feature in the Feature Manager and doing a right-click, and that option's always giving you this thing that's called List External References. Well, now what you can do is just simply hover your cursor over top of one of those. So if I happen to be editing a part within this assembly, now we're focusing on this feature tree, if I right-click on any of that, List External References is a tool that we can go ahead and show. But if you just simply pause while you're panning over top of one of these features, these reference indicators are going to pop up automatically. Now, it used to happen immediately in beta, so we've put a little pause on it now, but as you hover for about a second and a half, you'll see this parent and child scheming show up here. Now, some of these arrows actually show with names. If I look at Boss Extrude 2, for example, you see the arrow going low, shows motor floor, but it's pointing to Boss Extrude 3. Well, the motor floor happens to be the sketch that's absorbed by that feature, and if that feature was shown, then that arrow would not indicate the name of it since it's not buried beneath another feature. These can be turned on and off if you'd like. I doubt anybody's going to turn them off with that pause we built in. But if you right-click on the name of the assembly at the top, that's a button there for the dynamic reference visualization that would allow you to physically pause that feature or turn it off. When customizing the interface, we've had the ability for quite some time to customize, of course, the toolbars that we have here and hotkeys and even what menus show. But there's a couple of toolbars that have not been customizable, and one of which is this right-click toolbar in the graphics area. You typically get zoom, rotate, and pan functionality. We've also added this time around, though, is a nice quick toolbar here for some quick select functionality. So here we have lasso versus box select. We've got selection filters, which I'm going to go ahead and grab the face selection from this at this point. But it also gives you some other nifty ways to get to these selection tools, including our power select tools, which essentially are a pull down that's been across the top here for quite some time. So I've got my faces selected. Let me do something with that for you. There's a situation I'm sure everybody has run into where you've done a very meticulous selection, whether you're window selecting with your control key, whether you're simply control picking multiple things. These could be edges, sketch entities, a lot of different things. And there are times at which the pick gets so meticulous and maybe even a mispick takes place. You click and you deselect all that stuff that you took the time to pick. Well, now there's a right-click option that shows up on this quick toolbar right in the middle here, simply called Previous Selection. By clicking that button, it will activate all of the entities you previously had selected before you clicked off of those. Now, if I click off them again and right-click and Previous Select again, they're still the previous selection. So it's a really great way to get out of a situation that, again, I'm pretty sure everybody has faced, and I know I've faced from time to time. There's also an option that really allows you during these meticulous selections to save and group those selections for later use. Now I'm editing this part file, so right now the parts feature manager is active. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and grab a couple of faces. And by doing this, I'll right click and there's a new choice here called Save Selection. What this creates is something called a selection set. So over in the feature manager of the part that's currently active, I have 3 different ones that are showing up, one of which is the new one I just added. And by clicking on these different things, you're going to see a pre-grouped selection set. So in this case, we might have been picking these faces as a precursor or setting us up for simulation, maybe adding loads and restraints. This one over here, I just clicked and showed you how to do it. But we'll do this in assemblies later and any other place that you would do a multi-select that maybe you only want to do once and never have to actually do again. Selection sets are something we borrowed from one of our sister products, SolidWorks Composer. So pretty cool thing. All right, let me get out of this face filter tool for a minute. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to right-click on the part, and here again we have another toolbar that's been created by the developers, but really based on what we feel are the most commonly used features. Now we actually have the ability to right-click on this toolbar and customize it. Now by doing this, we're customizing one called the graphics area. Now on your shortcut button, if you hit S on your keyboard, you also have part, assembly, drawing, or sketch mode shortcut toolbars that can be customized. But for this particular one here, I'm just going to go ahead and add our whole wizard to it so you can see what this looks like. Adding it to this graphics area toolbar and saying OK means if I right-click on the part, you'll see whole wizard is there. But if I also right-click in the graphics area and get that quick toolbars, any customizations I make to the graphics area toolbars will also show up right here. So we're going to click the whole wizard in this case, and I'm not really going to get too meticulous into the details of what we're going to deal with, but I'm going to go ahead and add a nice M6 hole right down here. So let's go ahead and grab our M6. We're going to do a counterbore on this guy here. That looks pretty good. And then we'll just go ahead and throw this over on this face. So we've got a bunch of other M6 counterbore holes over here. And what I wanted to get into specifically with this is a little bit of new functionality changes that had to do with Toolbox. Now for those of you who haven't used Toolbox and do have professional or premium licenses, it's definitely something that you should take a look at because it's a really great performance enhancement tool for adding the fasteners into your